This is True News, the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help us God. A very suspicious and unusual fire erupted early Monday morning in the parking lot of Nantucket Airport. A group of Hertz rental cars exploded into flames for no apparent reason. In addition to the oddity of the fire, what really stands out is that all the vehicles had been rented by the U.S. Secret Service to transport the Biden family during their Thanksgiving weekend visit to Nantucket. Another thing that piqued our interest is the news blackout on this story. The few articles that were published mainly brushed off the incident as another right-wing conspiracy theory. Well, the first report that was published came from the Nantucket Current newspaper. Let's take a look at their headline.
And so rental cars used by the Secret Service destroyed in fire at the Nantucket Airport, Rick. And so, first of all, car fires at rental places, I would say, are pretty rare. So
I've been in a lot of auto rental parking lots in my lifetime, and I've never seen 5 or 6 cars explode and burn. Doc, we were going to talk about this yesterday. We ran out of time, but there's a reason I brought this back up today, and we're going to get to it here in a minute. But this is such an unusual story. First of all, it's unusual. If you just the fact that a group of cars in a rental parking lot exploded. Now,
right.
That's not a national news story.
No, it's not.
That's
it's an unusual story.
It's unusual. But when you add the fact that all of the cars that caught on fire had just been returned by the Secret Service, and
yes.
that they were rented for the purpose of transporting the Biden family. Now, the Biden family didn't ride in the vehicles for some reason, but they were meant to. The cars had been rented by the Secret Service to transport the Biden member families, the Biden family members, excuse me. And so that's the interest in this. That's why this is important, that the president, his wife, his children, his grandchildren were supposed to be in those cars.
Right.
Why did they catch on fire?
Right. So and any world leader, if there had been an association with fire this close to the family, this would be news no matter where you were in the world.
Absolutely.
So we have a little bit of VO that shows the destruction of this. Now, apparently, and we'll get into some of the story here in just a moment, all these vehicles caught on fire in the early morning hours, Monday morning, as Rick said, they'd been rented by the Secret Service for the purpose of, transporting members of the Biden family around Nantucket Island over the Thanksgiving weekend.
And the other ones,
there were 40 feet. I don't know if you saw that white tank.
Yes.
There was a jet fuel tank 40 feet away.
Yeah, let's run it again. Let's run the video and we'll keep talking.
So you see them towing the vehicles out and everything, and as they do the pan shot back around here in just a moment, you're going to see one of the jet fuel tanks sitting there for the private planes there at the airport. And so the destruction could have been much greater than it was. And so you see the tanks there. And
there you go. There's the fuel tank. None of the other vehicles caught on fire.
That's another unusual aspect of
It's kind of like Building 7 on 9/11.
Right. It wasn't hit by a plane, but it came down.
But it came down. But here we have a parking lot of automobiles parked side by side, and a group of them catch on fire and burn.
Right.
It just happens to be the cars that were rented by the Secret Service to carry the Biden family.
So let's get into the story by the Current there in Nantucket. A large car fire involving multiple rental vehicles recently used by Secret Service agents erupted early Monday morning at Nantucket Memorial Airport. There were no injuries, but 5 cars sustained significant damage, and the blaze occurred just 40 feet from the airport's jet fuel tanks. Now, the vehicles were among numerous cars that had been rented by Hertz to the Secret Service during President Biden's stay on the island for the Thanksgiving holiday. They had been returned to Hertz less than 24 hours before the fire broke out. Now, an investigation into the incident has determined that the blaze was not suspicious, according to Nantucket Fire Chief Michael Cranston. That right there, Rick, makes me suspicious when I see lines like that. The connection to the Secret Service and President Biden, however, put a national spotlight on the story and the island while fueling conspiracies about the fire.
Well, what does the fire chief base his conclusion on?
Well, to me, a car fire in a parking lot is always suspicious.
Multiple car fires. And he says it's not suspicious.
So I guess they have a different definition of that.
And the Secret Service is not investigating the fire.
That's right.
They said this is a Hertz rental company investigation.
It just doesn't make sense. Now, while the official cause is undetermined, officials have focused on a white Ford Expedition as the initial source of the fire. That vehicle was under a safety recall by the manufacturer due to a faulty battery junction box that caused fires elsewhere. And while it had been scheduled for service under the recall, sources said it had not been repaired.
Okay, so how did the fire move from one car to, let's say their theory is correct.
Right.
So the fire spread to all the other cars?
Right. That's what they're going with.
But it didn't go to the other cars.
Right.
The cars that were not rented by the Secret Service.
So the question is, all right, what is involved with the fire? Is there more to the story?
Okay, so, Doc, 2 years ago when was it 2 years? I guess it was, when President Trump was infected with coronavirus. And it happened, remember, there was a super spreader event in the Rose Garden of the White House.
Yes, that was Amy Coney Barrett's
when he announced her nomination for the Supreme Court.
Right.
And a group of people in one section of the seating arrangement were infected.
Right.
And I speculated that possibly a foreign government or an intelligence agency used a insect-size drone
right.
that was weaponized with coronavirus. I mean, we're talking a tiny insect drone. And don't tell me that they don't exist. They do exist. And I speculated that somebody flew that drone through that audience at the White House and infected the president and other people. Well, a senior editor for the Voice of America news service went berserk, started cackling like an old hen, laughing at me, made a big deal out of it. He contacted the Secret Service to get a statement because he wanted to keep the let's make fun of Rick Wiles show going.
Right.
And he contacted the Secret Service for a statement, and they said, we do not comment about our investigations. And that story died down.
Right.
You know what? When I saw that, you know what? The FBI is taking it seriously. They are considering the possibility that there was a miniature drone used to infect the President of the United States, okay? So I'm bringing this up because my investigative mind is working right now. And if I were assigned to this case, I would be pursuing certain avenues of possibilities of what happened.
Right.
So let's go back to August. And this woman, Daria Dugina, she was the daughter of a man,
Alexander
Dugina, who was a well-known, controversial philosopher in Russia. And she was killed in a horrific car blast. Her father was supposed to be in the car. They switched cars at the last minute. She got in the car, and the car exploded in a ball of fire. And I mean, it was obvious. It was a Western intelligence agency that exploded the car to send a message to Vladimir Putin, we're getting really close to you. It was meant to take out the father.
Right.
But it happened very close to the Kremlin, if I recall. I think it was in Moscow. Nevertheless, the message was, somebody in the West was sending a message to Vladimir Putin, we're going to blow up your people.
So are you making the suggestion that what happened at the Nantucket Airport this Monday morning was a message as well?
Yes. Yes. 5 or 6 cars rented by the Secret Service meant to carry the Biden family all exploded in the flames?
And none of the other cars did?
Precisely. Why did they explode after they were returned? Perhaps in mafia style, the message was, we're such nice guys. We didn't blow up your family, but we waited for the event to be over, but we did go ahead and blow up the vehicles just to show you that we could have done it.
And the fact that, you know, they make the statement, that the Secret Service makes the statement that we're not investigating this. I mean, come on, Rick. This was part of the presidential detail.
Of course.
They had to have been checked out. They had to have been, at some point, looked over. Or if they're not, then what's the Secret Service doing in the first place, right? So
they rented a faulty car.
Right. Is that what we're going to say? We're going to say that the Secret Service rented a faulty car that could have killed the President of the United States or a member of his family. Right. Is that the story we're going to go with?
They cannot say they drove cars around Nantucket that had explosive devices in them.
Right.
They can't say it. But I think they did. I really do, Doc. We're in World War III. I don't know if people realize that. We're in World War III. It started quite some time ago. And in world wars, political leaders get assassinated.
Right.
Pipelines blow up, ships blow up, all kinds of stuff happen.
Bridges get blown up.
Bridges are blown up. Have we forgotten what the West has done to Russia? We blew up their pipelines. We blew up their bridge. We killed the daughter of one of his friends. Have we forgotten? The Russians haven't forgotten. I think they've started payback. And I think the message was sent to Biden. We can take out your entire family.
Wow.
Oh, this gets, I hate saying gets better. This gets more serious. Let me use the right words. This gets more serious. Here's another very odd story. Look at this. This is from the London Telegraph. Russia's Wagner Group sends bloodied sledgehammer to the European Union. Wagner Group is a private military contractor, mercenary group. The Wagner Group sent a blood-stained sledgehammer to the European Union. What's the message? Doc, if you received a sledgehammer covered in blood, what would you think somebody's trying to tell you?
That I better be really careful.
They're going to smash your head
with the sledgehammer, and there's going to be a lot of blood. Now, what led up to this? Well, the European Parliament here in this past week has made Russia and has declared Russia a terrorist state. And so the Wagner Group has said, okay, we're going to send a message to you. And they actually have video of the lawyer for the Wagner Group delivering this in a violin case, mafia style. You have to give them credit for that and send, here, this is our message to you. So let's watch this again here. That's the lawyer for Wagner Group delivering this to the European Union Parliament. The message is pretty clear now. In a video,
don't take this personal,
yes.
But here's a sledgehammer with blood.
So a suited lawyer working for Wagner Group carried a violin case into a bare room and places it on a table. He lifts the lid of the violin case, showing off a highly polished sledgehammer. It was engraved. The head had been engraved with Wagner's logo, and the handle has been dabbed with red paint to depict blood. So in a separate statement, Yevgeny Prigozhin, the financier and founder of Wagner Group, known as Putin's chef, said that he was sending the sledgehammer to the European Parliament as information before members of Parliament decide whether to label Wagner Group as a terrorist organization. He also said that he was sad about this prospect. You know what? He doesn't sound like a guy I would like to make sad at any point.
I'm not going to insult or anger any man that personally owns a company of professional killers.
Right.
You just don't do it. And he responded in a way that any intelligent member of the European Parliament would have to interpret this. This is a threat that assassins are going to take us out.
But
if you vote for it, you're going to get a sledgehammer while you're sleeping.
But to be so overt with it and so public with it and just to say, this is it. Because you've been acting like the mafia all this time.
Yes.
All right? So you want to act like the mafia? Here's a mafia message for you.
There you go, Doc. You hit it. You got it. Hit it. That's
sorry.
That's the pun. But
hit
you
the
got
nail
it.
on the head.
Yeah, you got it. Hit the skull on it. You got it. The Russians are saying to NATO, you act like the mafia, so we're going to act like the mafia.
Right.
But we're not going to hide it. It's a difference between the Russians and the West. The West likes to wear the nice clothes and smell pretty and do everything proper. And then behind the scenes, they're dirty.
Yes.
And vicious and evil. But the Russians, they just say,
okay, you want to play that way?
But we're going to do it out in the open. And they sent a message. You have to take this extreme. This is not a publicity stunt.
No, they're saying this publicly, that if you want to go down this road, then we're going to go, this is going to be a mafia war going forward.
And you could interpret the sledgehammer as every European politician who comes against Russia is vulnerable to being beat to death in his or her bed. That's one possibility. The other interpretation could be nuclear warheads are going to be a sledgehammer that are going to crush you. Pick which one. Which one do you want?
But delivering it in a violin case, you've got to hand it to them. That definitely sends the mafia message there.
You got it, Doc. That really happened. So you got two events that have happened this week. The Russians sent a sledgehammer to the European Parliament, and somebody had explosive devices in vehicles rented by the Secret Service.
And could get that close to the president's family.
Yes.
So
I bet the Bidens don't go outside for a long time.
Yes, because they were very public over the Thanksgiving holiday in Nantucket. I mean, they were out walking around.
I bet they don't do it again, Doc.
Creepy Joe was peering through windows at little girls, and so.
I bet they don't do it again for a long, long time. You're not going to see Kamala Harris outside. They got the message. They got the message. Right. You're in World War III. I don't know how to say it. The people grasp it. The average person has no awareness that World War III has started. We're in it. It's happening right now.
Yes.
It's been underway for over a year. And this stuff is becoming more serious. And so when countries start sending bloody sledgehammers to the parliaments of their enemies.
And doing it publicly.
And doing it publicly. Then you know something big is coming. Something really big is coming.
Yes.
There was a warning to back down. Al Arabia reported that Russia's spy chief said he discussed Ukraine, also nuclear weapons, with the CIA director in Turkey weeks ago.
He met with CIA Director William Burns. Russian Foreign Intelligence Chief Sergei Naryshkin said in an interview published on Wednesday that he had discussed nuclear issues and Ukraine in a meeting earlier this month with United States Central Intelligence Agency Director William Burns. The two men met in Turkey on November 14th in the highest level face-to-face contact between the two sides since Russia invaded Ukraine in February. Now, Naryshkin told Ria Novosti, for my part, I confirm Ms. Rude's statement. Additionally, I can note that the most frequently used words at this meeting were strategic stability, nuclear security, Ukraine, and Kiev regime. He also confirmed Rude's comments that the two countries had a channel to manage risk and that if there was a need for another such conversation, it could happen. Does this give you any hope that that the lines of communication are opening back up, or is this an escalation of things?
This is an escalation. The Russian diplomat, the ambassador Ryabakov, he said a couple of days ago, all communication between Russia and the United States has ceased. So the surface level communication has stopped. That's not a good sign. That's not a good sign. What's happening here is that the two intelligence chiefs, one for Russia, one for the United States, said, let's get together and talk about nuclear war.
The reality of it.
They're having discussions about nuclear war.
And speaking of nuclear war and problems, that Russia and Ukraine aren't the only areas of the world that we need to keep an eye on. This is from Korea Times today. The latest in this story, 2 Chinese and 6 Russian warplanes entered Korea's air defense zone without notice. 2 Chinese and 6 Russian warplanes entered Korea's air defense identification zone without notice on Wednesday, prompting the Air Force to scramble fighters to the scene. Seoul's Joint Chiefs of Staff said the planes entering into the KADIS came as Korea is pushing to strengthen its alliance with the United States amid an intensifying Sino-U.S. rivalry while maintaining its opposition to Russia's invasion of Ukraine. The JCS said the warplanes flew across the KADIS but did not violate Korea's territorial air. So once again, as we often see as these situations heat up, we start pushing the boundaries of other nations. We see China do it. We see Russia do it. We do the same thing too. We'll push against, right up against the air zones and everything, or right in, disputed territory, and
they want
just
to see the
test
reaction. They want to see the reaction the other country will give them.
Right.
They're testing the response. But what we're seeing now is joint Russian,
that's the important
Chinese incursions into other countries' airspace.
Yes.
We haven't seen that before. We've seen Chinese warplanes flying over Taiwan. We've seen Russian warplanes flying towards Alaska.
Right.
But we've not seen Russian and Chinese warplanes flying together.
So that's definitely sending a message to the West, to Korea, Japan, and to the West as well, that there's a new strategic partnership that's around.
That's right. So, well, while we're talking about war, here's this next story is a war on civilians, on citizens. San Francisco will allow its police officers to deploy robots that kill. Of course, we finally made it. It's here. We've talked about this for, I don't know, Doc, 18, 20 years?
Right.
Someday there are going to be armed robots on the street. And people said, no, that will never happen. Well, it's now happening in America. Of all places, Nancy Pelosi's city.
Yeah, we can't get the police body cam of the Paul Pelosi incident, but we can have killer robots in the streets.
That's right.
So,
hey, and Paul will be safe now that the robots are armed.
So supervisors in San Francisco voted Tuesday to give city police the ability to use potentially lethal remote-controlled robots in emergency situations following an emotionally charged debate that reflected divisions on the politically liberal board over support for law enforcement. The vote, though, was 8-3, with a majority agreeing to grant police the option despite strong objections from civil liberties and other police oversight groups. Now, opponents said the authority would lead to the further militarization of a police force already too aggressive with poor and minority communities. The San Francisco Police Department said it does not have pre-armed robots and has no plans to arm robots with guns. But the department could deploy robots equipped with explosive charges to contact, incapacitate, or disorient violent, armed, or dangerous suspects when lives are at stake. That's from San Francisco Police Department spokesperson Allison Maxey. Robots equipped in this manner would only be used in extreme circumstances to save or prevent further loss of innocent lives. So, guns don't kill people. Robots with guns kill people now. So
it's going to be common. It's going to be common, Doc. Armed robots on every street.
And at what point will they develop artificial intelligence to give the robot itself the decision-making ability to do it?
The Israelis are already doing it against the Palestinians.
That's right. They're mounting cameras at security gates with guns that can actually track the people that they want to target.
And shoot them.
Yes.
So, that way they don't have to interrogate an IDF soldier. Why did you shoot that Palestinian?
No.
That was just a robot did it.
Yeah,
and it had to be right because artificial intelligence made the call.
Right. The only difference now in San Francisco, they'll chase you. And so, well, another story, Rick, U.S. politics. This is Bill Clinton. He had an announcement today. And you could have copy and pasted this from a number of politicians who had COVID at one point or another. He said, I've tested positive for COVID. I've had mild symptoms, but I'm doing fine overall and keeping myself busy at home. And here's where it's always the same. I'm grateful to be vaccinated and boosted, which has kept my case mild. And I urge everyone to do the same, especially as we move into the winter months.
And there's the propaganda.
Right.
The propaganda. I'm so glad I got vaccinated.
Boy, if I hadn't been vaccinated, I'd been really sick with COVID.
Mr. Clinton, our prayers that you recover. I know what COVID is like, and I would not wish it on any person. And so I pray that you recover quickly. But you were not vaccinated with a vaccine. If you received a vaccine, you would not have been infected. That's the purpose of a vaccine. These are fake vaccines. What you received was an operating system that you can never get rid of. It's always going to be in your body. And it doesn't stop people from being infected, and it doesn't stop people, it doesn't prevent vaccinated people who become infected from being contagious and spreading it to other people.
That's right.
And right now, even the government and the news media are admitting that the majority of deaths
from COVID
are from vaccinated people.
Yes.
So what did we miss here, Doc?
Well, but remember 2 years ago, they were saying, boy, the vaccination, it's 100% effective. In fact, Joe Biden basically ran on that.
Joe Biden said, if you get vaccinated, you will not get sick.
Right. Dr. Joe Biden.
It was a lie. He knew he was lying. And Bill Clinton, I think, knew that it wasn't going to keep him from getting sick, but he went ahead and got the vaccine.
Right.
Well, we were told he did. Regardless, whether he has the vaccine or doesn't, he has COVID. Well, what's the point of getting the vaccine if you still get COVID?
Oh, you get a milder version of COVID. Well, how do you know? How do you know you get a milder version?
But you get a stronger version of the operating system.
That's right.
And I don't have their operating system. I've got God's operating system in my body. I'm not going to allow the devil to put his operating system in me.
And if Bill Clinton's infected with COVID, he's probably infected with a whole bunch of other things from all of his proclivities through the years, too. So.
Yeah, he should be injected with penicillin. That would be the best thing. Doc, we're at the end of the year. Tomorrow, I think, when does December start? Is that
tomorrow?
Tomorrow's
yes.
First day of December. So we're approaching the end of 2022. We should nominate the biggest hypocrite of 2022.
Oh, there's so many candidates out there.
I know, but if we narrowed it down, I think overwhelmingly we would choose Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau as the biggest two-faced hypocrite.
Or black-faced hypocrite.
Or black-faced hypocrite on the planet. Okay, so we all remember what Mr. Trudeau did to his fellow citizens, the truckers of Canada, when they protested against his Nazi-like vaccine mandates. He turned it around and called them Nazis.
Right.
He weaponized the law against his own citizens. He invoked national security emergency powers as though the country was under attack from space aliens, and they crushed the protest
yes.
of truckers who simply said, we want to work, we don't want to be put out of our jobs because we don't want this vaccine, we just want to be able to work, and we want you to change your policy.
Right. But
and so he went after them, and some of them went to jail.
some of them are still going through that process.
Some of them are still in jail, just like they have persecuted people with the January 6th event in the United States of America.
Well, up in Canada, they've been having these hearings, basically a dog and pony show, to justify everything they did during the crackdowns and everything up in Canada earlier this year.
Yeah. So he defended his use of emergency powers.
Right. Emergency powers meaning we can freeze your bank account or even take money out of your bank account.
Destroy your life.
Take away your ability to earn a living. Separate parents from their children.
He seized churches.
Yes.
Didn't just close them down, he seized their property.
So
pastors were arrested.
And so
people went to prison for violating his mandate. There was no law, his mandates.
Right.
Okay, so that's the record of Justin Trudeau, the love child of Fidel Castro. So what did Mr. Hypocrite say yesterday? He condemned China's crackdown on anti-COVID lockdown protesters.
Right.
How can you be that brazen to stand in front of cameras and condemn another country for doing what you did to your own people?
And we've got him on tape saying it. Watch this.
Canadians are watching very closely. Obviously, everyone in China should be allowed to express themselves, should be allowed to share their perspectives and indeed protest. We're going to continue to ensure that China knows we'll stand up for human rights, we'll stand with people who are expressing themselves. We also need to make sure that China and places around the world are respecting journalists and their ability to do their job. We'll continue to make that very clear.
His words are as fake as his eyebrows, Rick.
I know.
So.
I can't keep my eyes off his fake eyebrows. Ever since they fell off, I'm always waiting for the next eyebrow malfunction. So, it's hard to be serious about these people when you know they're such clowns.
And such hypocrites. I mean, really.
So if we flip that around and we had Xi Jinping saying the same words that he said, about the Canadian truckers.
Right.
What if Xi Jinping said, we're watching Canada. We're very concerned about human rights abuses. We think the people of Canada have the right to express their opinions. He would have said, hey, keep your nose out of our business.
Right.
Incredible hypocrisy. And they just do it without any shame.
Right.
and they go on. Well, while we're talking about COVID, we'll take a look at China, what's going on there. The protests continue. This next one is from News Australia. The moment the new tank lady faces down Chinese riot cops in a revolution, she bravely defied them. Of course, it didn't last long. They roughed her up.
Right.
But she stood there defying the Chinese communist goons. We've got a video to show you how they roughed her up. Hey, Democrats, that's your communism.
Yes.
That's what you want for all of us. That's why we're opposing you. And we will fight to our deaths to never allow that in the United States of America. The Democratic Party is the Chinese Communist Party franchise in this country.
That's
It's
a pretty
their
good
franchise.
description. Yes.
They are a franchise of the Chinese Communist Party. And Justin Trudeau's party is the Chinese Communist Party's franchise in Canada. Chinese pretty much have taken over Canada. And they've got a deep grip on the United States of America. And we're going to talk about it in this next half of True News today. I want you to see how the American news media and big tech are working together with the Chinese communists to defend the Chinese communists
Yes.
in their crackdown against people who speak out against the COVID lockdowns, and how they support the crackdown on you and me when we oppose the lockdowns. That's the message that we want you to see and understand here today. The Democrats, the news media, and big tech working with communist China. Maybe they're all in it together, Doc.
Right.
Could it be? I don't think many people figured this out. They've not figured out that you have influential players in America who are working in lockstep with the Chinese Communist Party.
Right. And it involves big tech, and big government.
And big media.
Right.
And big
together.
pharma.
So right now in China, and you won't see these images on your local mainstream channel here in the U.S., tanks are being seen on streets in China as officials ramp up crackdown against protesters. As Xi Jinping's Communist Party officials have stepped up their response. We have some video of some of the military vehicles and some of the tanks now that are being rolled out, as can be expected from the Chinese Communist Party, because you can't allow freedom of speech in protest of the COVID lockdowns, so they have to beat you down to do it. So let's watch.
几十辆坦克。要干仗了。
What a marvelous political system has to bring out tanks in order to crush the people who are tired of COVID lockdowns.
And when you bring out military equipment, you're in a war.
That's
And
right.
the Chinese Communist Party is at war with their own population.
And if the Democrats in America
Had their way.
had their way in the news media and big pharma, that's exactly what would be happening in the USA today. They did not want to let off, but they knew that the opposition was growing. The change was the Canadian truckers. We commented on it when the truckers were protesting. All of a sudden, politicians started announcing the end of lockdowns, the end of mask mandates. It just disappeared. The Chinese have kept it up. And I do not believe that there are COVID outbreaks. I mean, they're saying if there's one infection in the city, it could be 10 million people. If there's one, they're going to shut down the entire city. No, there's one outbreak of freedom.
That's what has to be.
That's what they're crushing. Outbreaks of freedom. Outbreaks of liberty. And they're using the military to crush the people. And COVID is the cover story, just like it was the cover story in America. Was there a virus? Yes, I had it. Where did it come from? Wuhan, China. It was made in a Chinese laboratory. Anthony Fauci was part of the operation, and it was released in America, and it was released in Europe and other countries. You had high-level, influential people in America secretly involved with the Chinese Communist Party to carry out the plan. And they succeeded greatly in this country and throughout the West. Australia fell so fast.
Yes.
I couldn't believe how fast the Aussies fell for it. They've never recovered from it. They fell, they allowed the government to build concentration camps.
And put people in them.
Yeah.
Put Australian citizens in camps.
And people didn't figure this out, that the politicians were marching lockstep with the China Communist Party. And I say, oh no, because our prime minister opposes China. Our senators speak out. It's all a game. It's all a game. Doc, I believe they're all, I can't say all, many of them on the national level have sold their souls to the China Communist Party. I believe it.
I wouldn't doubt you at all on that.
If we knew how many of our generals,
yes, especially the military.
Generals in the Pentagon are communists. If we knew how many of our senators and congressmen were communists, if we knew how many of the news media were communists, we would be utterly shocked. We'd be horrified if we understood the depth and the width and the scale of the sellout of this country. The Chinese communists have made deep inroads in this country. And I want to show it today. I want to demonstrate how the news media and big tech, big pharma, and government officials are marching lockstep with the China Communist Party to bring the whole world into what? The China way. The China way is what we just saw in the video. That's the China way. And if they get their way, that's going to be every country. And they will patrol the streets someday. This won't be soldiers. There won't be cops in white suits. There'll be robots.
Robots without emotion.
Yeah.
Robots with guns. So
communist robots.
Like we see in San Francisco.
Well, the next thing, Doc, CNN reporting China to punish internet users for just liking posts. If you like a social media post, they're going to hunt you down. You're going to be punished.
So you're saying they're using social media in order to control the population, Rick?
Absolutely. If you oppose the COVID policies and you like it on social media, the communists are coming after you.
So internet users in China will soon be held liable for liking posts deemed illegal or harmful, sparking fears that the world's second largest economy plans to control social media like never before. The new rules come into force starting December 15th as part of a new set of guidelines published by the Cyberspace Administration of China. The CAC operates under the Central Cyberspace Affairs Commission, chaired by leader Xi Jinping. What's important to note is that in the wake of the China protests, we will likely see more aggressive policing of Chinese cyberspace, especially if the protests expand. And that was said by Isaac Stonefish, founder and CEO of Strategy Risk, a China risk consultancy firm based in Boston.
But Doug, this is what was carried out in the United States,
Absolutely.
in Great Britain, and Europe, and Australia.
Yes.
If you oppose the COVID policies, you're going to be punished.
You'll be deplatformed.
Deplatformed, your life destroyed, your job taken away from you, maybe your children taken from you. There were children that were taken away from parents because they would not vaccinate them.
Right. So what's the difference between what China is doing right now and what we were doing?
There's nothing. That's the point I'm making.
Right.
Because it was all directed by the China Communist Party. And so you have to look at the politicians and the bureaucrats that were carrying out these radical, extreme, anti-freedom policies. And you have to consider the real possibility that they get their marching orders from Beijing, that they are secret closet members of the Communist Party. Doc, I believe that what COVID revealed to us is that one of the most dangerous infiltrations of the communists is in the health departments of counties, cities, and states. We didn't think about it. They were getting their people inside the health departments to issue these draconian rules. But we now are aware of it. And they were able to have bureaucrats, unelected bureaucrats, simply lock down an entire state.
That's right.
Lock down schools. Millions of students didn't go to school for 2 years. Some unelected bureaucrat was able just to sign a document, and the state police would back it up. You tell me that isn't Chinese communism? That's exactly what we had in the United States of America and Canada and Great Britain and Australia and Europe for 2 years. And don't think it won't come back. They know now what they can do. They know the limits. They know what kind of resistance that they're going to get. They're tweaking and adjusting their strategies for the next one because they tested the public.
And we're watching it play out once again in China right now. Another article regarding the Chinese restrictions coming soon to a place near you. Apple's airdrop restriction in China deprives protesters of a key communication tool. Now, you have to ask yourself why Apple is doing this. Well, because they're in league, they're in bed with China. Protests have intensified in recent days over the Chinese government's harsh COVID-19 measures. Anti-government demonstrations in China appear to have quietened as some people who attended weekend protests have been contacted by police. People in China reported being unable to fully use their iPhone's AirDrop file sharing feature, which has been used to circumvent the Great Firewall of China and spread information about protest. Now, what's AirDrop? Well, AirDrop is a file sharing feature that allows users to share files such as photos, documents, or videos with other Apple devices. Now, using direct connections between phones, AirDrop creates a local network of iPhones that can interact with one another without the need of the internet. People may choose to receive AirDrop content from anybody else in the vicinity who also has an iPhone. So basically, if you were taking a video of a protest, let's say, Rick, and there were a whole bunch of other iPhone users, you could simply AirDrop and share that video virally within a crowd of people, and it could spread.
Well, why is Tim Cook, the CEO of Apple, cooperating with the Chinese Communist Party?
Well, because they're in bed with the Chinese, and so.
Well, wait a minute. You know what you just said?
Yes.
You said Apple is in bed with the Chinese Communist Party. Are they only in bed in China? Or does the bed spread over to the USA? How wide is that bed? Is it a king-size bed or a twin?
It's a California king, probably. So now, in the past, protesters in many authoritarian nations have been able to use airdrop to circumvent government censorship restrictions. However, Apple restricted the use of airdrop feature in China earlier this month ahead of the recent anti-government demonstrations. 9to5Mac first reported the new limitations on November 9th when Apple released an update. There was no mention from the company about certain features being made inaccessible, and Apple told Bloomberg earlier this month that it had plans to roll out the setting globally to restrict unwanted file sharing.
Oh, right there. Globally.
Yes.
Because they're anticipating global
Protest.
resistance.
Yes. Now, however, for now, the changes remain exclusive to China, and some people believe they may have made information sharing more difficult in the light of the widespread demonstrations against China's zero COVID policy. You think? That's exactly why they did it.
Apple is cooperating willingly with the China Communist Party. They're doing it inside China,
Yes.
and they're doing it in America. You're not going to convince me that Apple is pro-freedom in America and anti-freedom in China. I'm saying they're pro-communist in both places.
Wow.
Simple as that. It's all coming to light. They're all being exposed. And they can't hide anymore. They don't even want to hide anymore. Have you noticed that? They don't even want to hide. They're open about this stuff.
They want to come out, don't they?
They want to come out. They think that they have enough power. We have fake elections in America. 2020 was fake. 2022 was fake.
In 2024, we'll
And
probably
2024 is going to be fake. We don't have free elections anymore. People know it. They don't know what to say. They don't know what to do. They're fake. You know, I didn't say anything after the 2022 midterms. We were on our way to Jordan, and I'm like, here we go again, another fake election. How do I know it's fake? Because the results defied historical trends, records, cycles.
Yes.
You're not going to convince me. The party out of power always gains a lot of seats in the midterm elections in the USA.
But not this time.
Not this time. So you have to convince me that Joe Biden, this senile old pervert that stalks little children in Nantucket and peers through the windows at them, sniffs their hair, who has a drug-addicted son who does business with the Chinese Communist Party. During his 2 years, he's wrecked the U.S. economy. We have inflation, sky-high inflation, highest in 40 years. Millions of people have come across the border since he went in the White House.
Yes.
Crime is exploding. And you're going to tell me that the American people said, yeah, we like it. We want
more of that.
We want more of it. We're going to vote for more Democrats. We're so excited about it. No, it didn't happen. The elections are rigged. I'm going to say it all. The elections are rigged. I am convinced the elections are rigged. There is no way that old man who can't get a crowd. Do you remember I think in October, it was in Pennsylvania.
Right.
Remember
the drive-in theater?
No. Biden spoke in the same town as Trump.
Yes.
There was a handful of people there for Biden. Massive crowd for Trump.
Filled up like a stadium, an arena.
Yes. On the same night. And you're telling me that Pennsylvania voted for that brain-dead Anton LaVey love child guy for the U.S. Senate? I don't believe it.
Right.
I don't believe it.
And no Democrat campaigned. They did the Joe Biden strategy. They just hid out.
Just imagine Biden in 2024 and his running mate is John Fetterman.
Hey, don't laugh that off. There were actually people postulating that here a couple weeks ago.
Boy, that would be a brainless ticket, wouldn't it? Biden, Fetterman. No, as weird as it's getting, Doc,
Right.
they could do it and they'll win because the elections are fake. Why are they fake? Because China has taken over our voting system. I believe it. I believe the Chinese control our voting system. After 2022, I have zero confidence in the elections in America now. We're in a communist-controlled state now, and this is incremental takeover. It's incremental. Communists will be elected every 2 years in America. By 2030, there will be members of the China Communist Party moving from Beijing to America and winning U.S. Senate seats by 2030.
I don't doubt you at all.
And patriots will be still going,
When did that
that's
happen?
weird. Boy, I'll tell you, we're going to win 2032.
Yes.
We're going to organize, and we're really going to win 2032. Man, there was about a dozen Chinese communists from Beijing that got elected to Congress. How did that happen?
The next election.
But the
will
next
fix
one,
it.
we're going to get some Republicans in.
It's Chinese Republicans.
Yeah, there'll be
So-
Chinese Republicans from Beijing winning the Republican nominations. Well, okay, let's move on because I want to show the rest of this. News Australia, Elon Musk's big change to content moderation on Twitter. So he announced that effective November 23rd, Twitter is no longer suspending accounts for publishing tweets that defy the official narrative about COVID and the vaccines.
Yeah, so there's been another big change to social media platform Twitter after Elon Musk's $44 billion purchase. It emerged on Wednesday. A notice had been published on the company's website announcing Twitter's COVID misleading information policy would no longer be enforced starting from November 23rd. Now, the policy involved Twitter removing or annotating, quote, potentially harmful and misleading information about COVID. Now, and these numbers kind of have me suspect, Rick. As of September, Twitter said it had suspended over 11,000 accounts and removed nearly 100,000 pieces of content under the policy. I think those numbers are way low, but I'll go with that for now. Let's play the game.
But True News was one of them.
True News was suspended, and we were permanently banned for tweeting not misleading information, but actual news from a news site.
We put in our tweet a link to a Irish newspaper.
Right, so this was back earlier this year. Heartbreak as young Irish woman who went to gym and walked 10 steps every day dies in her sleep. Now, the article was published May 30th. We published it about 2 weeks later, June 14th. Mm-hmm. When we published the link to that article, we were banned from Twitter.
For showing people that article from Ireland.
Yes.
That's all we did. That's all we did.
Right.
We showed the public an article from Ireland about a woman dying in her sleep. Oh my, that's too close to the truth. People mysteriously, young, healthy people dying in their sleep.
Now, mind you, you can still go to that website today and still click on that link.
Yes.
But True News was banned because we reposted it.
They were looking, the little commies in San Francisco at the Twitter headquarters were looking for a reason to deplatform Twitter. And what we want to find out now is, did they get phone calls and emails from the FBI and the White House and the CDC telling Twitter to ban True News? That's what I want to find out. Elon Musk has hinted that he's going to release internal Twitter documents regarding the Hunter Biden story, right, of how Twitter punished people who posted stories about Hunter Biden, how they deplatformed organizations like Zero Hedge.
Yes.
So he's hinting that he's going to release those documents. Well, I would like him to release all internal documents about True News. Did the FBI, did the White House, did the CDC, did Anthony Fauci, did anybody in power contact Twitter and demand that True News be deplatformed? Because that's a lawsuit.
Yes.
That's a good lawsuit. And I'd like to see those documents, but we're just showing you an example. We were caught up into that, wave of censorship. If you dare question the narrative, you're going to be shut down. Of course, their view was, you're spreading medical disinformation. No, we spread a newspaper article. That's what we spread, a newspaper article. And we asked the question, has anybody considered the possibility that this woman was vaccinated?
That's all we asked.
Yes. You can't ask that question in a communist world. So we got deplatformed. Hopefully, our account's going to be restored very soon. And we're waiting on word from Twitter that they have lifted the ban. Another story is about child pornography in the fashion industry. And once again, the media is covering it up, and the Democrats are crying. They're crying that the right-wing nuts are insinuating that there is a network of pedophiles in the world.
But they are open about it, Rick.
Yes.
So this article here, this is from Sky News Australia. Balenciaga issues another apology amid backlash over disturbing BDSM ad campaign featuring children. Now, you see this image on the screen here. Balenciaga is a high-end fashion house that specializes in handbags and things like that. Very expensive stuff. And so, they have the ability to create any kind of ad campaign they choose to develop, Rick. And yet, they chose to develop an ad campaign featuring children. And if you looked at the stuffed animals here in the picture, the stuffed animals, the teddy bears and the little monster there, they're wearing sexual outfits, BDSM outfits, Rick, in a campaign featuring children.
Yes.
And
it's
of course,
as evil and wicked as you could possibly get.
But we're conspiracy theorists if we say,
no, we're not.
What's going on here?
Our eyes are wide open, and we're aware that Satan has come out of the abyss. That's what you have to understand.
Yes.
Satan has been released from the abyss. That's why this wickedness is out in the open now. Raw wickedness in high places. It's because Satan has been released from the abyss. That teaching is opposite of what most evangelical churches in America teach.
Right.
But I'm telling you, with all my heart, I believe Satan has been released. It is the only explanation I can come up with to explain the sudden explosion of wickedness in the world. It just, Doc, suddenly in recent years, wickedness is now fashionable.
Yes, literally fashionable. I mean, we have fashion houses promoting it. There's no way, they've tried to backtrack on this ad campaign and everything, but somebody made decisions along the way to say we're going to use children as sexual objects in an ad campaign. And not just sexual objects, but perverse sexual objects.
Doc, my former life before I became a preacher of the gospel, I was in marketing. And I worked for several television networks. I've worked with New York, Madison Avenue ad agencies. I know the process, the protocol of how these big ad campaigns are put together. When I was a young man, I traveled to New York City to supervise ad campaigns that were being developed by ad agencies on Madison Avenue. There is no way that this fashion company did not know that their employees and their ad agency developed this campaign. There is no way.
I mean, you've got photographers involved, press agents involved, talent agents involved with children.
Has
you've got parents
Balenciaga,
involved.
have they fired anybody?
They haven't said anything.
They got a clean house.
They ought to, but instead they attack the people who criticize this.
That's right, because they get caught at it. They get caught at it. They get called down. And the atmosphere is changing. People are becoming aware of the wickedness now. They just haven't figured out that Satan is walking the earth now. I believe it, Doc. I believe it. I believe he's going to manifest himself soon in a human being, the son of perdition, that many people call the Antichrist, but the Bible calls him the son of perdition. It will be a human being totally possessed by Satan. Satan has been released from the abyss, and he is going to enter a human being. And that man is going to be the man of destruction, the man of perdition. And we're at that place now. Christ is coming soon. And it's time to forget about a secret pre-trib rapture and a third temple and all that garbage that has been taught in America for 50 years. Just throw it in the trash. Put on your big boy pants and stand for Christ. We're going into tribulation. Stand for Christ. Be a faithful witness for Jesus Christ at the end of the world. We're at the end of the world. Be a faithful witness for Jesus Christ. For heaven's sakes, you don't get a rerun at this.
Right.
You don't get a second chance at this. God's not going to say, hey, cut. Let's do that again. We're going to do the end times again. Some of you didn't get it. No, this is it. This is it. Put on your big boy pants and stand for Jesus Christ. Be faithful, be courageous, endure to the end. Don't let them see you sweat. Don't back down. Don't be afraid. If they kill you, they kill you. So what? Stand for Jesus. He hung on a cross for you. Can't you stand for him? Doc, we have to stand for Christ.
And I believe God has prepared us for this
Yes.
day. Just as he
Give us the
prepared the
grace.
apostles for the first century, he's prepared a group of believers for this day to stand in these times, to stand up against this wave of evil that has possessed the world and that man of perdition that's coming down the pike very, very soon.
Well,
when they're doing ad campaigns, open pedophilia ad campaigns, what's next?
Look, Doc, where we've gone from 2016 with spirit cooking and Pizzagate to 2022 and Balenciaga. Look how far we've gone into the sewer pit. If we would have said in 2016 that major fashion companies are going to have advertising campaigns with children dressed in sexual bondage clothing.
Or images of children being castrated.
Yes.
That's another ad campaign.
Yeah,
that
we
they
got it
were
right
doing.
here. This is New York Post, number 45. This is a scrap Balenciaga campaign featured book by painter whose works included castrated toddlers.
Yeah, and so in this particular story here, Balenciaga has taken a hit yet again over photographs from an axed ad campaign that shows a book featuring a Belgian artist whose work includes depictions of castrated toddlers. This isn't made up, everyone. Photos from the brand's now canceled spring 2023 ad campaign show French actress Isabelle Huppert posed in a Manhattan office with a stack of books behind her. Notably in that stack of books is a title celebrating Belgian painter Michael Burmans, whose works frequently feature children. Now,
And Borman, let me tell you, I'd never heard of Borman. I don't know these perverts. So I looked him up. And you know where I kept finding articles really celebrating his work? Israeli newspapers.
really,
Oh, he's really popular.
Oh, very popular in Israel and Jerusalem.
Oh, in the high society of Israel, he's very popular.
Well,
the pervert.
The David Zwimmer Gallery in Hong Kong, where some of Borman's Fire from the Sun has been shown, described his paintings as toddlers engaged in playful but mysterious acts with sinister overtones and insinuations of violence. Well, that right there should tell you a lot. In that same ad, a $3,000 Balenciaga Adidas handbag was shown sitting on a desk alongside, now listen to this, they do this on purpose, Rick, alongside paperwork from the 2008 Supreme Court decision in U.S. versus Williams, which confirmed that the promotion of child pornography is illegal and not protected by freedom of speech. It's like they throw it right out in front of you. Look, what we're doing. We're just going to do it anyway. It doesn't matter what the Supreme Court says. We're just going to do it this way. We're going to promote pedophilia. We're going to promote child sacrifice. We're going to promote castration of toddlers. That ad, that picture of the model, has the books on the desk and everything. They put those books there on purpose
to
send a message.
I want to jump down to number 53 because Babylon Bee made fun of this ad campaign, and it says celebrities cut ties with Balenciaga after My Pillow spotted in photo shoot.
And wouldn't that be the case?
Yes. So you have the stuffed animal over there, and in bondage attire, but there's a My Pillow. And the left, if that happened, the left would be demanding an apology from Balenciaga
about featuring My Pillow. I mean, isn't that case? Now, of course, there was no My Pillow in that image. We're just telling you that. Babylon Bee, this is a satire of that.
Has Balenciaga been deplatformed anywhere?
No. Have celebrities disassociated themselves?
The ones that are making millions of dollars representing them, have they been deplatformed?
No, they haven't, Rick.
Are they invited to the White House? Would they? I mean, Mitch McConnell says, if you have dinner with Nick Fuentes, you're not allowed to run for president. What if you represent Balenciaga? Are you allowed to run for office? What are the standards here? If you're connected to a company that promotes child sexual torture, can you have dinner with a member of the U.S. Senate or the House or governor or president? See, the standards aren't applied to these people.
No, they're not. But you know what is even more discouraging about this Balenciaga saga, if you will, is there is no outrage. People are a little upset about it. You notice that, Rick? They're a little upset about it. They're so numb to it now.
Doc, it's the new norm. It's the new norm.
Right.
Child pornography, it has been normalized in America. I'm telling you, Satan is walking the earth. He's been released from the abyss. And the American evangelical church is absolutely clueless. They're still waiting on a third temple. They're waiting on a red heifer. And Satan's walking the earth. Man, it's time, Christians, forget about the preachers. Forget about religious TV and radio. Forget about the mega churches. Forget about all of them. Just stand for Jesus Christ and speak for him.
Amen.
Just do it. Don't wait on the preachers to do it. They're not going to do it. You and I have to do it. We have to stand for Christ. We have to be the salt and light. Salt of the earth, light of the world. Salt slows down the rot, and light illuminates in the darkness. The reason this is taking place in America is the church has lost its saltiness.
Amen.
And so the rotting is speeding up.
There is no light.
And there's no light. Because people they've snuffed out their lights as Christians. Why? Because they allowed the world to tell them you shut up. Stop talking about Jesus. Take those crosses down.
They offend
Stop
us.
praying. They offend us. And the church allowed it to happen over decades. Now we're in darkness. And Satan is strutting around in the darkness. I'm going to bypass a lot of stuff because I've got enough here. We could do another hour. But I want to go down to number 78. And you probably have heard about this or seen this video. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, this can't be real. I mean, I get shocked at stuff. And you know, some people sent me videos from Disney with children saying, we love Satan. I'm like, is this real? Have we gone this far now? Doc, I remember the days when Jerry Falwell Sr. was mocked for saying that Teletubbies were gay characters, and that the toy industry and the television industry were slowly introducing homosexuality to children. That was back in the 80s. They mocked him.
And it came out later that they were designed specifically for that.
Yes. All right. So whenever preachers point out the presence of demonic images in marketing or entertainment, they get mocked. And then people are afraid to believe it, or they go, oh, that's just some crazy preacher. And then the preachers are afraid to say it. But we're at the place now that Disney's no longer denying that they're satanic. I don't know how any Christian can go to Disney World and give money to those, I can't say it, words I want to use. I'm not allowed to use them, okay? Why would you give them money? Why? Why would you give them money knowing what they are? So I saw this video of little children holding signs saying, we love Satan. Turns out it's real. It's part of a TV show. Tim Allen, the comedian Tim Allen, is in this video, which means Tim Allen condones it. Is okay with it. Why? Because he's getting the money. Maybe he doesn't like it, but he likes the money. Here's the video that was circulating, and then we'll show you the full video. Let's watch it. We love Satan.
Right.
Any mistake about what was there?
Now, that wasn't a subliminal message.
No.
You know, that was right out there.
Let's show it one more time. This is a Christmas show for children.
That's airing right now on Disney Plus.
And the Satanists, the synagogue of Satan that owns and controls Disney, the synagogue of Satan. You know what I mean. The synagogue of Satan. Jesus told us who they are.
So people started pointing out this video and started saying, hey, Disney is promoting Satanism here. And of course, Reuters has to fact check this, right? So they stepped in on this today. Fact check. Images from Disney series of children holding we love you, Satan. Placards are missing context.
So I was waiting on Reuters to say, we discovered that this was photoshopped, that this is fake news. No way did Disney make a children's show with children holding signs at Christmas saying, we love you, Satan. But that's not what Reuters said.
No, it said social media users have shared images and videos from a Disney Plus Christmas miniseries with context missing. It's your fault. It's your fault for doing this. The content taken from the Santa Clauses 2022 three-part comedy created by U.S. producer Jack Burdett has been edited to suggest Disney is promoting satanic worship to children. Now, notice they say that was edited, all right? That's what they say here. Now, social media users made the claim by sharing either a cropped video clip or a screenshot from a single scene where a group of children, each holding a placard with a letter of the alphabet, are seen standing in a formation whereby the placards come together to read, "We love you, Satan," and on Twitter. And Reuters found the scene in episode 3 of the miniseries titled Into the Wobbly Wood, which was just released last week.
Okay, so Reuters found the scene.
Yes.
They admit.
It's there.
It's there.
Right.
But it's these right-wingers
who cropped it and put it out there.
Just to draw attention to it.
So,
right?
Now, the full version of the video shows the children's formation was intended as a joke. Tim Allen's character, Santa Claus, is seen asking the children to check their spelling before rearranging the message to read, "We love you, Santa." And so Reuters issued their verdict on all of this. It said, the verdict is we're missing context. The Satan message, yes, the Satan message was a joke. The complete scene shows children rearranging the letters to spell Santa correctly. Now, Rick, you've been in broadcasting and television a couple days, okay, a couple years. I have too. I know that there is a process that goes along in review and in discussions and in desktopping scenes and everything.
It took a year to develop.
It was probably done a year ago.
Yes, it took at least 1 year of planning for that show.
And so they planned to have this particular scene that you saw in this particular movie. You can you can't say it was an accident. You can't say, oh, well, you know, we goofed up on that one. No, you planned it out. You purposely made a Satan joke.
Did Balenciaga deliberately plan stuffed animals with sexual bondage attire?
They purposely did that.
Yes. And Disney deliberately produced a children's video at Christmas celebrating the birth of Jesus Christ, and they defiled those little children's souls by telling them to hold signs saying, "We love Satan." And Tim Allen, shame on you. I've lost all respect for you, Tim Allen. All. Shame on you.
Now, Reuters says that social media users are missing the context of it. Okay. We'll show you the full context of the clip. This is a little bit longer version of that same section. You decide for yourself what message are they trying to send here. It's been a year, doesn't surprise me. Merry Christmas, I got it up and with Spelling. There we go. That's one name.
Shame on you, Tim Allen.
So
I don't have to worry. I mean, Disney, we've known for a long time.
Right.
They're satanic. Tim Allen, that Disney money meant that much to you?
So in the process of promoting Satanism, they're also mocking Christianity.
The birth of Christ.
It's Satan. Satan's a joke. He's not to be taken seriously or anything at all. So it's all laughed off. It's all just a joke. The devil's a joke. If the devil's a joke, then Christianity's a joke as well. And so
let me say it again. If you go to Disneyland or Disney World and give them money, or if you are a subscriber to Disney Plus, or you have any Disney materials in your house, you're part of it. You're okay with it. You're financing it. If you're a Disney Plus subscriber, you need to cancel your subscription this very moment. You just turn me off and go to Disney Plus and cancel your subscription. Get it done. I don't want to hear anything out of your mouth if you continue to pay Disney for their content. I don't want to hear a peep out of you about griping over the affairs of this country if you're unwilling to cancel Disney Plus. If you're planning a vacation to Orlando or to California to go to Disney properties, you you're not offended by this. You really don't love Jesus Christ. You're not offended. It's just that simple. If you love Jesus Christ with all your heart, mind, and soul, you would not tolerate anybody doing that. That type of behavior, the type of insult. You wouldn't tolerate it. If you love him with all your heart, mind, and soul, you have to take a stand. We should have taken a stand decades ago. You see where we're at now? Christians have been so wimpy for decades. Wimpy, compromising, refusing to take a stand. Because I like my Disney. I like this, I like that. I'm not going to cut it off. Well, they're going to cut you off. Okay. So right in your face right now, telling you they serve Satan.
Yes.
Wow. Hey, I got a lot more I want to talk about, but I think that's the final thing. Appreciate your support. I'm not backing down. Ever. Never, ever am I backing down. Never compromising. I'm not going to be silent. Not going to do it. And I appreciate those of you who stand with Doc and me and support us financially. And God will richly bless you. His favor will be upon you. We're in the last days. We're in the very last days. And only a handful of ministries are talking about the second coming of Christ.
Yes.
It's crickets out there. It's so weird. It's just weird.
When there's so many things that are pointing to it, and
the greater the signs, the more silence from the church. Oh, but do they love the state of Israel? Do they love Netanyahu? He's back in power. Well, we're going to get the third temple. And you're deceived if you believe that stuff. Christ is coming. Christ is coming. Love you very much. God willing, Doc and I will be back here tomorrow. And our job is to be your spiritual no-dos. Keep you from falling asleep in the last days. Love you very much. Bye.
God bless you.